I love Auburn's shot in the Sweet 16.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's a Charlie Tuesday to all who celebrate, meaning we are joined by the Kyle Rush, the man over at the barn, auburn.com, Auburn message board legend. Kyle, we'll talk about some of the football chatter as spring kind of starts today. It kind of feels like it's already started, but let's start things off with Auburn making it to the Sweet 16. Obviously, they play Michigan. But to me, the most encouraging thing is I think that second half versus Creighton should give all Auburn fans, I don't know, I think it should calm them down a little bit because you can't poke at effort anymore. No. You can't poke at, the being able to, achieve what we've seen throughout the season from this team. To me, I think that second half versus Creighton is the best half of basketball that we've seen from Auburn, maybe since the last time they were at Rupp.
Yeah, I said that with Daryl after the game. That 6-minute stretch from about 11 minutes to 5 in the second half where you held Creighton completely scoreless, not a single point.
Insane.
That goes back. That's pure effort. I mean, Creighton can play, man. They hit 9 threes in the first half. Like they can score. And that little guard, Ashworth, he's quick. He can make things happen, and we can't guard him, apparently, even though we did after he said that. But that's what we've been worried about. Auburn has not looked this good since they played Kentucky, period.
Right.
They look pretty good in the the Iron Bowl of basketball the second time, but you couldn't finish it off.
Right.
With the effort on the defensive side, the effort on the offensive side, you just felt like – I feel like now this team could go up against anybody. My expectations going into this game versus where they are after the game are there's a chasm between them.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And I love the extra day. I love that, one, you're not traveling as far. Obviously, Atlanta, hour and a half down the road. But also, I love that they don't play till Friday. I mean, there's some guys that are banged up. I mean, clearly Chad Baker-Mazara and Dylan Cardwell, they missed some time in the game against Creighton. And then Janai still doesn't seem to be 100%. I don't know if it's mental or physical. I don't know what it is at this point. He took to Twitter after the game and said, "Hey, Auburn fans, you can expect more from me in the final stretch of the season." Okay. I hope you're right because they need you. They certainly need you. But I love the extra day for these guys to get healthy. And we've talked about this for months, but I love how close it is to home.
I agree. I want to ask you a question, Zach. I want to see if you feel the same way I feel. And maybe this isn't I don't know. I feel like Daryl was on the same wavelength with me, but It felt like the pressure on that game Saturday was vastly higher than the pressure is on Friday. It's almost like the weight's been lifted, so to speak. And maybe that helps this team play a little bit more free. But I don't know, that the game on Saturday, I was more nervous for that game than I have been for quite a while for a basketball game. I just felt like the pressure was ramped up with all the early exits.
Yeah.
With the expectations being the number one overall seed. Am I way out of bounds there?
I don't think you're way out of bounds. I feel more confident against Michigan than I do against Creighton. So I agree with you. I think the style of play that Michigan has, Auburn has seen better teams or similar teams almost every game this season. And Creighton, that they were red hot. That's what concerned me. And then that first half, it's like, oh my goodness. Because we all said they can't continue to do what they did against Louisville than they did for a half. And then they cooled off. Thank goodness. That's not really Michigan's thing. Michigan's, more, I think they've got a higher floor and a lower ceiling, I guess, than what you saw against Creighton. So to me, I think so. With all of the pressure that Bruce Pearl, outside of the Final Four run in 2019, not being able to get to the Sweet 16 again, it sucked. It's been awful. And now you can't say that anymore. So, And also, the last 2 months, we've been talking about it. Just get to Atlanta. Just get to Atlanta. And we've seen Auburn dominate teams, solid teams,
specifically Big Ten teams.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Really think about it.
Indiana, Ohio State,
Nebraska.
Yeah.
You beat Ohio State by 38. Not that they're on the level of, a Michigan or a Michigan State, but you may have a chance to play two more Big Ten teams there, which is fun.
I guess you're right. Or would you rather play Michigan State or Ole Miss?
I want Ole Miss.
So hard to beat a team 4 times in a row. Like, that's just crazy. But
people keep saying that, but like, is it? I don't know. Is it hard to beat a team 4 times in a row? I feel like we kind of have
legitimately better than them. Yeah, I don't know.
You play I think a B- game, maybe even a C+ game against them in the SEC tournament, and you pretty much handle them fairly easily. Now they are hot; they're playing really good basketball. They destroyed Iowa State last night, or 2 nights ago. But yeah, I think I still rather play Ole Miss.
Me too. I don't think we'll play Ole Miss, but if you gave me the option, I would still take Ole Miss for a few reasons. One,
Chris Beard or Tom Izzo. Either one those are both really good coaches. So
they're really good coaches, no doubt.
It's nothing but good coaches here on out.
Yeah. In Atlanta, though, like I take Auburn against any of them. Like anybody. I think now with this situation, like this is a Final Four team. I think Auburn makes it to the Final Four.
I would have not. I'll tell you what. Before Creighton, I would have not said the same thing.
Yeah.
After the first round performance, I would have thought. Honestly, I thought we'd probably get beat by Creighton. I honestly did not think
you were in that camp.
I was, because of the effort. Because it was a track record. It's not. We've been sort of, I guess, excusing it, saying, oh, it was this, and we clinched, and it didn't matter. But now it was like 4 or 5 games in a row where it's like, okay, they don't even seem to like each other. And then all of a sudden they came out and looked like the old Auburn basketball team that in the middle of the season that was just absolutely destroying people. I feel like that team's back, and my expectations have completely changed.
Yeah, my thought process was there's no way this team doesn't get fired up about what's in front of them. There's no way. And I'm shocked it took as long as it did, to be 100% honest with you. And I don't know if that was just complacency or if they had to be scared a little bit to say like, oh no, we almost like really messed this up. Or like, was it Dylan Cardwell? Was it Dylan Cardwell and just leadership on this team? It's like, guys, I don't want to go out like this. Let's go out with a championship. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but clearly, and I know we mentioned the second half because that's where like the point differential was that really, helped Auburn pull this one out. But the first 10 minutes to me, even though Creighton was making like everything in the world, the effort for Auburn on both sides of the court, it's like, okay, if you do this for a full 40 minutes, nobody's beating you. Yeah. It's like they're not going to make 60% from 3.
They're not going to hit 18 threes.
Yeah, and if they do, it's like, dang, that sucks. Like that stinks. You're out of it. But it's just not. It's not likely. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's certainly not likely. And they weren't, and they didn't. So to me, I think those first 10 minutes showed me like, oh, we're back. We are back. And we're seeing teams throughout, March Madness, and this is part of it. And that's what makes it the greatest tournament in the world. But there are a lot of teams that are, facing opponents that they are way better than. But interestingly enough, they're all edging it out. Like there's not like a major outlier in the Sweet 16.
I agree.
Is Ole Miss the lowest seed at 6?
I think you're right. It's been pretty much chalk all the way through.
Yeah. And so is that just the top 20 teams in college basketball are way better than they normally are? I think that's the answer. With the portal and keeping folks out of the G League and all of that, I think that's kind of what we're looking at now, which I think is great. Like I know Cinderella stuff is fun and all that, but the level of basketball we're about to see this weekend is going to be insane.
Oh, it's going to be insane. The games there have been a ton of incredible games. That game, the Colorado State and Maryland game was unreal. Yeah. There's been a bunch of those.
He traveled, by the way.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Yeah. I'd be ticked if I was Colorado State.
It's kind of like if he were to double dribble and they didn't call it. I'd have been that mad.
Yeah, that's right. Still talking about it like 6 years later. Yep. That's right. All right. Who do we want to see more from for the Auburn Tigers? And I want to make a take. I want to make a take, and I want you to tell me if it's too hot or not. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Nissan. The Armada Team of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our Locked On College basketball experts are picking one team that stands apart.
Don't
from
do
top
Nissan.
seed. This one's okay. The team of the week is okay. They went with the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Okay, I can jive with that.
That's fine. That's fine. Despite losing their first 5 SEC games, Coach Cal's Hogs fought their way through the most rugged conference in college basketball to not only make the NCAA tournament, but to knock off back-to-back national champs and Hall of Fame coaches en route to the Sweet 16. That's not true, is it?
What?
That's not true.
What's not?
Back-to-back national champs. They didn't beat UConn. Florida beat UConn. Whatever. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's what the Razorbacks have done here. It's clear that our team of the week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of Nissan's outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. And also just a quick shout out to Lindsay and Daryl yesterday for filling in for me. Super appreciate it, guys. Thank you all so much. Okay, so I want to make a take. If Auburn goes on to win and get to the Final Four or better, national championship appearance, or when they win the dang thing, I want to say that Dylan Cardwell will be one of, if not the most important player in Auburn basketball history.
Wow. And I think I know where the angle you're going with this.
I think he's the one who woke him up.
I do too. Let me say this. He doesn't say a lot of super deep, substantive things. He says a lot of fun things. He's like the happy-go-lucky guy.
Right.
His mood completely changed after the Alabama State game. And I think that whatever he said has resonated. And he said it to the media. He said it in the locker room. He said they had a come to Jesus meeting. And I'm with you. I think he may be the turning point. He may be the turning point. He may be the linchpin of what makes this team flip it around and make this deep run, this championship run.
In 2019, we talk about Javon McCormick like single-handedly carrying Auburn against New Mexico State in the first round. I think when we tell this story a few years from now, Dylan Cardwell's performance against Creighton was insane. Doesn't all show up in the stat sheet, but what he did defensively was unbelievable. And we're just seeing a different Dylan Cardwell right now. And most importantly, he's the cog in all of this that makes it run. And once again, like, he woke him up. Chad Pruitt shared something about like how great of a leader Dylan Cardwell is yesterday on one of the social media platforms. And it's like, yeah, I think so. Like, I don't think all of this is happening on accident. You know what I mean? So is he the best player? No. But you're talking about a guy who, if Auburn goes on this run, I think Dylan Cardwell waking up his brothers, his team, and saying, hey, I don't want to be done playing Auburn basketball yet. That combined with he's the winningest player in program history, I don't know. I think there's an argument there.
I'm with you. I got another, I think, underrated idea of why this something that could be a big impact.
Okay.
Player of the year voting is over. It finished yesterday.
Okay.
I think Janai kind of bought into himself a little bit, maybe over the last couple of weeks. And now, like, there's nothing else. There's nothing else you can do. That's done. You can't do anything to change it or hurt it. So the stress or whatever you had going on in your head about being player of the year, that's over with. That's announced next week.
You don't probably lost it.
Probably.
I'd be shocked if he won it at this point.
And honestly, that may be a freeing feeling. I don't have to. Okay. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Am I going to win it or am I going to lose it? And I'm hoping. And he put out a tweet shortly after the game that said what you mentioned. This is going to be different. I'm going to be the old Janai again. I'm wondering if that was weighing on him a lot, and he kind of had bought into it a little bit, and it was making him tight, putting a little extra pressure on him. You can just kind of be free and play basketball now.
Yeah, which that voting should end at the end of the regular season, by the way.
I agree.
What it is.
It actually didn't even open. It actually didn't even open until I think the end of the regular season. So you had like 2 weeks to vote.
Is there another award in sports, like a Heisman or MVP, that goes into the playoffs? Like, I don't think so.
And only the first 2 rounds. Like, it doesn't make it like it's just very
the
arbitrary.
least important 2 rounds of the tournament. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
It's interesting. All right. Well, yeah, I think it's a great point. Who do we want to see more from? I mean, Johni Broom's the obvious answer. I also think Miles Kelly in Atlanta is something to watch.
Yes, big time. He's been kind of quiet. He did hit 7 threes to open up the game against Alabama State. He was pretty quiet the last game, but A-Town, baby. Local. I think he's from Stone Mountain. Local kid.
Obviously played at Georgia Tech.
Yeah, played at Georgia Tech. Got to see more Miles Kelly. And, hey, I need to see more floaters. I need to see more Tahad in the lane hitting those floaters. Those were so pretty.
When he is on, you're not beating us. There's no way.
I'll tell you another thing, Zach. Analytics tell you guard the 3 and protect the paint, basically, down low. So it leaves those little runners. It leaves those little top of the key jump shots. And when you got Denver, Tahad, and Chad, and even Chaney that feast on those little short, old school basketball jump shots.
Yeah.
I mean, the more attempts they get, the better it looks.
I hate it when we shoot those, dude. I
know. I hate it too, but we're good at it. We're really, I'd love to see the numbers on it.
When they go in, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. You know better than me, but I don't know. I just feel like especially when they're early in the shot clock, I hate it. But when they go in, it's fine. It's fine. And when Tahad's feeling it, they usually go in. So we'll see. The line opened at Auburn 9.5. It is now at 7.5. I guess 6.5. So we'll see. We'll see where the money's going. Right now, it seems all be on Michigan plus 7.5. But I think if Auburn wins this, I do think they cover.
Oh yeah, it has the makings of a 10 or 12 point. It feels like a 10 or 12 point game. I would have put the line. I mean, I would have 9.5 where it opened. That's kind of what I was thinking
really.
It would be. Yeah,
you're that confident.
That confident after the change from game 1 to game 2. I'm that confident in this team. I just don't think they'll be able to score with us. And as long as we can defend the whatever they call them, the twin towers or the 2 bigs without fouling, I think it's going to be a long night for Michigan.
All right. Auburn football spring is here. We discuss some of the chatter around that and more next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Supply House. You can get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Kyle, they have over 200,000 parts from the over 400 top brands. Are you kidding me?
Where do you even keep those?
In the Supply House, I guess.
In the house of supplies.
I guess it's just this massive house of supplies. If you need help with an order, are you talking to AI? Are you talking to a bot? Or are you talking to a real person with Supply House?
You're talking to real people.
Yeah.
Humans.
Yeah, humans live in the Supply House. That's right. That's right. You can join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your order. That's at supplyhouse.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Kyle Rush, the Charlie 5 over at thebarnauburn.com, hanging out with us today. So it's this weird thing. Like, I've talked to several players, and they're like, yeah, practice starts Tuesday, today. But it kind of looked like they practice on Saturday. So I don't really know exactly like.
This has been the most weird spring.
Yeah.
Weird spring ever. I mean, there were dates around the Senior Bowl when he was like, yeah, we're going to start on the 17th or we're going to start on the 18th. And then it was like the 25th. And now recruits are talking about being at practice on Saturday. And you're seeing pictures of dudes in their practice uniforms.
Yeah. So I don't really know.
I have no idea.
Whatever. We get a viewing window today, I believe. So we'll check that out, and I'm going to try to make it. And so we'll report what we see there. But I mean, everything I'm hearing, Kyle, this has a chance. I'm not saying it's there. I'm not saying it's happening yet. But there's a very real shot. This is the best wide receiver room in the history of Auburn football.
It's yeah. I mean, you heard there were some quotes that, from Saturday, the practice that did or didn't happen. We don't know. Closed to media. Cam Coleman making one-handed catches, Perry Thompson making catches, contested catches. Eric Singleton's the fastest player on the team. Malcolm Simmons being Malcolm. I mean, it's hard.
I keep hearing stuff about Sam Turner, Kyle. Yeah. How Sam Turner's going to threaten for playing time. And I'm like, how? How is Sam Turner going to threaten for playing time? I love it.
And we haven't even talked about Horatio Fields. Like, there's just dude after dude in this room. I'm with you. I think on paper, potential-wise, this could be the best wide receiver room in the SEC, maybe the best wide receiver room in Auburn history from a depth perspective.
Yeah, one thing I think is interesting, and I want your thoughts on this, is whenever somebody asks about the quarterbacks, they seem to talk about Deuce. They don't really talk about Jackson. What does that mean? Is it just because a lot of the guys they're talking to are younger, and so they're probably more interested in what Deuce is doing because they'll play with Deuce? Is that all this is?
I think that's a lot to do with it. And I think also, and this is no disrespect to Deuce or anything to do with Deuce, but I think people are shocked at how far ahead he actually is.
Like, well, that was kind of the thing against him, is like, he's not expecting to play right away. Like, he knows he needs a year, and it doesn't sound like that's entirely true anymore.
I don't want to say that it's not. I don't want to say like he's going to challenge for the starting role this year, but sure. I think it's this from a standpoint of this guy is way further ahead. Like this, he has it. Like he could be the guy. And if Jackson goes down, we can roll with him right away.
Yeah, instead of Ashton Daniels, right?
Yeah, I think that's the big excitement. That's why you're hearing so much. It's like, wow, this 5-star may be a legit 5-star.
Yeah, Deuce doesn't need to challenge for the starting job. The best case for Auburn is for Deuce to do enough to make the leash for Jackson Arnold as short as possible.
Yes.
To me, that's the goal. Because I don't know, that clearly wasn't the case last year with Peyton Thorne, because there was nobody else.
Yeah.
That's surely can't be the case even with Ashton. I think that can't be the case this year.
You mentioned the wide receiver room, maybe the best we've ever had ever. This quarterback room.
Don't do it.
This quarterback room has a chance to be one of the better quarterback rooms if you think about it from a overall depth perspective, it has a chance to be really good. I mean, from a recruiting ranking standpoint,
yeah,
you can't argue it is. But I think they have the pieces. It could be one of the better quarterback rooms we've had in quite some time. Can you think of when's the last time you're like, man, that room is solid?
Going into a season, I would have said 2014.
Yeah, going into a season. That's probably
Jeremy Johnson.
Yeah, and I'll probably go back.
But that's what we thought, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I may even have to go all the way. 2014, that's a good one. I'll probably go there, and before then, you probably got to go back to, 2004 when you had Brandon Cox behind Jason Campbell. I thought there were times when you saw Brandon Cox and he looked really good as well. So,
yeah, I can't really remember like the vibes around, like the thought process around Brandon Cox when he was a backup. I don't really remember that.
I remember in 2005, I mean, he was a 5-star quarterback. So I remember in 2005 feeling really good. And then he threw like 4 interceptions in the very first game. So I think you nailed it. I think going into the 2014 season, you felt better about the quarterback room. It was a similar feeling, the quarterback room to me then than it is now.
Yeah. And then like in 17, you had Stidham and Sean White, but I'm way higher on Sean White than most people, so that's probably not a correct answer.
Sean White. I thought Sean White was a gamer.
Me too. I wish he could have stayed healthy, and other things. But
yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Kyle, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter, _Charlie_5. Subscribe to thebarnauburn.com. We launched a new show on Fridays and we call it Friendship Friday. So if you want to make your podcast debut, you could possibly sign up for thebarnauburn.com and we can hear what you got to say. So that's one fun thing we do that I think helps us stand out, and the community's great. Definitely need to check us out, thebarnauburn.com.
Thebarnauburn.com. Absolutely. And over the Barn Auburn on YouTube. You can find my other show, Village Vice, that I do with Brad Law, as well as Kyle's show, as well as the Barn Baseball Show with Lindsay and Brad and Sunny D. They do an outstanding job as well. So, and Auburn baseball keeps winning. Auburn baseball keeps
another
winning.
Big Series win.
How about that? On the road in the SEC. Let's go. Let's go. Once again, please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're tuned in on audio, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.